Welcome to the Northeast Kingdom Voice. I'm your host, Scott Wheeler. Today, our guest is Robin Smith from the Orleans County Record. We are here to talk about the year in review. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Scott. It's been a while since we've done a look back, and is there something to look back at this year.
Did you hear, didn't I hear there was a presidential election this year?
Something like that just rattled the cages all over, and it's been talked about before, but we do have to mention it's causing such uncertainty across government, and that's local and state. Nobody knows what Phil Scott, new governor, is going to do exactly. Trump and the federal government, nobody knows. So everybody's not sure. Is it going to affect the removing of phosphorus from Lake Memphremagog? Is it going to affect how the transportation money is spent, because Scott doesn't want to raise fees? I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty out there. This is all going to play out next year, but it needs to be mentioned this year.
I think sometimes uncertainties can be a good thing,
Yeah, you don't plan on spending money if you don't know if you're going to have it. That's guaranteed.
But I'm going to tell you, we're not going to mull over the national election too much. But the one thing I will tell you that's my biggest disappointment throughout this election and continuing is, I have often been proud at how we, as in the people, can be so civil to one another. And we can be, the people of the Northeast Kingdom are great. Even when we hate each other, we're usually civil. But I have seen so much bad come out of this election. Right. I happen to respect anybody. We had two horrible candidates. People had to make a choice, a difficult choice, or unless you went to a... But, I have never felt more of a time where I didn't feel like I could even share what I thought, because there's so many people that want to crucify you one way or the other.
What I do want to say is, at the federal level, that race, the Trump-Clinton race, was really... there was some stuff going on that was really offensive. Like, you almost didn't want your kids in the room when you watched TV ads. On the flip side, though, some of the local campaigns almost got so chummy that it was hard to tell whose party was which. I'm thinking Orleans, too, when you had two incumbents Republicans, Mike Marcotte and Gary Vians, running against Ron Holland and Judith Jackson from Irisburg. And they were running as Democrats. They all took the same stand, almost. Everybody complimented each other on the happy campaign and how nice it was. Incumbents won. Not surprised in a Republican sort of district, but it was almost like a reaction to what was going on at the federal level, which I thought was kind of neat in a way.
Having served in the state house myself, I believe that most people who run in Vermont are good, decent people. Yeah. And, I might disagree with them, but they're still good people. And here's the other thing. We love to label ourselves. We love to label ourselves Republicans, Democrats, Independents.
It's more fun to label somebody else.
Yeah, but no, the thing is...
A lot of us like to be independent.
But we are...
Sign me up for that.
But so in reality, if you talk to somebody and they call themselves a liberal Democrat, and then you get to talking to them and you think, wait, I know liberal Democrats, and
that's not
and vice versa.
Right.
So I think the reason, I just think a lot of people from the Northeast Kingdom just have a bit of Yankee common sense, and I still think because you try dirty politics in the Northeast Kingdom and to a degree Vermont, it usually backfires.
Well, and people have a pretty good BS meter, and they know when they're being sold something, and either they vote sometimes for their interest, never mind what they're being sold. And we could do a whole show about this, but I think we need to move on to
No.
the other big thing.
Wait, I do want to mention the governor's race.
Yeah.
In stark contrast to the presidential race, where you had two horrible candidates that you just wanted to bury your head in the sand, we had fine candidates running for the governor's race.
Right.
They had different views. I have served with both of them. Phil Scott, outstanding guy. His father's legs were blown off in World War II. He built himself as a construction worker. Sue Minter, she sat right next to me in the State House for several years.
Did awesome in the post-Irene work
Right.
in southern Vermont especially. I was so impressed with what she
Right.
did as transportation secretary.
Right. She was
really good during
she's
that
a
time.
really sharp person. Unfortunately, I watched the campaign and I'm thinking, no, Sue, you're getting some bad advice about having smear campaigns against Phil. And it's hard to smear Phil. And the other thing is, I don't think she understood just how much Governor Shumlin is disliked. And when she started touting him,
Well, I mean, it's hard to run against your party's previous governor. I mean,
I
it
would've
was a really tough year for whoever was going to run as a Democrat.
if I were Sue,
That's
though,
the reality.
if I were Sue, though, I would have ran and hid every time Governor Shumlin walked into a room. I would have. Okay,
Yeah.
what's the big story? Other than that, what's
I
the
don't
big
know.
story?
Something happened, and it just about blew up Jay Peak and Burnt Mountain in downtown Newport. It happened in April, and it's called the EB5 scandal. And the gossip around Jay Peak for years while the growth was happening, and I heard this, and Scott heard it more, was people were calling Jay Peak Ponzi Peak, and it all blew up in April when the Securities and Exchange Commission and the state filed lawsuits against Bill Stanger of Newport and his partner Ariel Quiros, who lives mostly in Florida, but also J area. It put a halt to all development, left a hole in downtown Newport, which, if you look at it, it's a developable property now. All that old buildings were taken out, all the hazardous materials, all the lead's gone. There will be a buyer for some or all of those lots. I think there's like 9 lots there, and the Bogner plant, which is sort of ready to go for somebody.
Okay, because that was where the
They were going to have
Bio.
ANC Bio. All those projects were gone. They were, according to the feds in the state, they were taking money from raised for ANC Bio specifically and using it to finish projects at Jay Peak and Burnt Mountain. The state let them finish Burnt Mountain. That's a question, but it happened. Bill Stanger's cut a deal. Ariel probably will get no deal because he's
Right.
sort of the guy who apparently was running the show. I mean, it's certainly Jay Peak did grow. It's functioning. It suffered really bad winter last year. But you can't. Next to the federal presidential election, it's the biggest story in Vermont, and really sad that it happened here.
I'm going to tell you why that shocked me, though. It wasn't that I didn't think something was going on, because you'd always think money from heaven, like, hey, this is great. But the reason I was, I just remember when it came down, it was like a kick in the stomach, because I have worked with Jay Peak and Bill Stinger for years. They're great people to work with. But the reason I was a bit surprised, to put it mildly, is you had all these state officials. You had Shumlin, Welch, and Leahy, the governor, all in one photo. They all wanted part of the deal, and there was so many oversights in it. So while we can focus, no doubt, Bill and Ari, they had their hands in it, but I believe there was, I think the state and federal government did not monitor this program the way they were supposed to.
Well, it's pretty clear they didn't.
And because
And
those politicians were like rats jumping off a ship. Once this started coming down, oh, we didn't know any. You did know something. My take on it is I don't think in Bill's mind, because I've worked with Bill. I think Bill had a dream. Jay Peak was not the only thing he did. He was on boards, he did this, he did that.
Right.
And then, he came here from Jack Frost ski area in the 1980s. He ran Jay Peak when it was a little mountain, but he always wanted to improve it. So when that opportunity came and Kiros bought it and they teamed up, I don't believe his intent was ever to bilk anybody. And this all just, I'm not giving him a pass,
right.
But I don't think this was his mission. I don't even think he knew until it was too late.
Well, I think that there's something called, you willingly look away from something that might be
right.
too dangerous. And I think that he willingly stepped back and let Kiros and his associates handle the money part while he did all the publicity and the marketing and everything else. And I think when you build, like, the signs must have been there right from the start that they had money to buy the ski area and to build that first hotel. And as far as I understood, like, it was almost money was no object to make it beautiful.
Right.
And usually developments don't, there's restrictions and things like that. And I suspect that he should have known right off the bat that things were looser than they should have been.
On the positive side, though.
But you got a beautiful mountain that's been fully developed.
And look at the snow this year.
And hey, we got it. We got winter.
And all I say is we can get good out of this. We do have two beautiful resorts. We have a new runway, which I know isn't directly connected.
It wasn't paid for by EB5 money.
But it's
the runway.
indirectly connected.
Right.
Yeah, we have a hole in Main Street, but that can be resolved. But all I hope is that the people who invested get treated right.
Right.
Because
that's
that needs to be resolved. Okay, since we're doing this rapid fire, what's next?
Well, I think that if you want to look at just some other development that's having a fairly big impact on part of the Northeast Kingdom, Orleans County, is the port of entry in Derby Line. Finally, I live in Derby Line, so I'm interested. Anybody who crosses the border on a regular basis will be impacted by the new port being built on 91 because it'll create, over the next year and a half, more traffic in downtown Derby Line, perhaps more lines on the highway. So if you're up on Canadian holidays, pay attention. Those are when traffic might be more on the highway or downtown in Derby Line if you want to cross the border.
Oh, so it's going to be more.
Be conscious of it.
Oh, I kind of thought it would be. I thought you were going to say that it was going to lessen.
Oh, just during construction. Once they're done.
During construction.
Once they're done, it'll be back to probably normal. They're really expanding their capability of handling commercial vehicles.
Right. Okay.
But the impact is that, there'll be some more lineups, that's all. But it's a big project.
Okay, in a way connected to that is Walmart opening in Derby,
right?
And there's a hope that you Canadians, which I know you're,
I
you
grew
live
up
here.
in Stansted, yes, but I was born in Newport, just so you know.
That there's a hope that with our brand new, ginormous,
it's big
Walmart, that the Canadians are going to flood across. Are they?
I don't think so.
No.
But I'm not sure how many Canadians, if you think of Canadians, know about it. I think, I don't know if Walmart is advertising in southern Quebec, in the eastern townships. If you drive by, the parking lot is pretty busy regularly, even in the evening when around here the sidewalks roll up. At 8 closes at 9 or whatever in the evening. There's still quite a few cars over there. They have Walmarts in Magog, 2 in Sherbrooke. I believe that it'll draw quite a bit from the people who live right along the border,
Right.
south, because they've been waiting just like the rest of the folks around here for a local store. What I have noticed is ads on cable TV for pick and shovel, for example, which I think is, like, I know they have to spend money to do that, but it really showed a welcoming place to go and
Right.
and to get your stuff. So I'm hoping that people will come to the area and shop. Of course, rumor mill runs rampant about other kinds of restaurants and whatever. Dina's going to expand the tavern at the
Right.
top of the hill right across. There's for sale signs everywhere. So we'll see what else develops in that area.
Right. So what impact do you think, because let's be real, Newport, I know we love to talk about the heyday of Newport, and a lot of it's myth, and because Newport has always gone through ebbs and tides. It's always evolving, devolving.
Right.
But in the last 30 years, Newport has struggled. And,
Right.
and like, I've been the eternal optimist for Newport, and I'm just not so optimistic anymore. What is Walmart going to do to that?
Well, I mean, I think Walmart is going to have the same effect that all the other little box stores out in the Derby area are having, which is drawing people there instead of walking around downtown. But the reality is the Rite Aid and the Vista downtown faced competition from Price Chopper and whatever. It's facing more competition, but I think the Walmart Supercenter grocery store will affect Shaw's perhaps, or
Yeah.
Price Chopper more. The little stores are really local. Derby Village store, really local. That parking lot's been packed ever since Walmart opened, and people who like to shop there already don't want to go to a big shopping center. So I think that we'll see over time if it draws from outside our area. I heard people talking when I went into Walmart the other day about going down to Littleton to shop, but now we're shopping here too.
No, and I believe
because
that.
they were going down there for something that they couldn't get here. But I think that those monthly trips to Littleton are going to not happen. They might go there a couple times a year to get things that they can't get here. It'll be a destination maybe for a shopping day and go out to eat and whatever. But I think people are going to come to Newport for the things at the Derby area. So we'll see.
A little offshoot of that is, if you're unemployed now, you are unemployed because you want to be unemployed.
Yeah, boy, you want a job there.
There's jobs everywhere.
Yep.
Is you go and no, it might not.
McDonald's is like hiring for weeks up on their
they
sign.
pay pretty good now. Like $12 an hour or something. And sorry, but I'm not into the being a fussy thing, because I might have found my niche in life now.
Yeah,
but I have done some.
Held me up all this time.
Throughout the years, my wife and I have had to do some jobs that we didn't necessarily want to do. Right. And so if you're unemployed now, sorry, you're unemployed because you want to be. Or because you have to be. I should say that.
Well, there are some folks who either through lack of transportation or lack of training, but boy, there's a lot of resources out there. If you want a job and you just need some help, there's places to go. All you have to do is tell somebody that you'd like a job and you need to learn some stuff, and there's places to go to get that, and it won't cost you. You just got to go and do it, and that's reality. So, there's some people in the news this year that I want to mention,
okay.
And you have a couple that you wanted to bring up. I'm thinking Mark and Lisa and Bethany.
Well, no, this was a year that, the people of the Northeast Kingdom, they really are good people, but, hundreds and hundreds of people turned out for a concert for Lisa Shelton, and her husband lost like 200 pounds to perform Elvis.
That's dedication.
Because she has stage 4
I
cancer. But then the producer of our show here, Todd Pronto, and his sidekick, Wayne Warner, both of them talented musicians who even have a name for themselves in Nashville, they put on an outstanding concert for their friend, Devaney Choquette. Devaney is, most people remember her as now she's a former radio host. She has worked so hard to educate people about cancer. She was only 17 when her mother died of cancer. So she has been a one person, with Todd as her sidekick, helping raise money for people with cancer, helping raise money for cancer research. Well, Todd and Wayne hosted a benefit concert for her because Devaney now has cancer. So who else do you have?
Well, on the sort of interesting side, not in the same realm, Bill Rivard stepped down as principal in the past, at the end of the school year at North Country Union High School. And he'd been there, I'm going to get it wrong, but he started before I did. I think it's 14 years before I did, moving back here from Bennington. I know the Banana Belt, but I did work there. So he decided that it was time for a change, and because it was a little bit later in the year, the school board had trouble finding a replacement that they liked. So they went with a team of longtime educators who are doing a good job, but teams are great, but if you take one of the three out, they wouldn't be able to do all the work. So they've decided the board's looking for a new principal now, or getting ready to, I should say, in the new year. And, it's a big high school, and principals make a difference. So I think that it'll be interesting.
Do you know I could never look at Billy in the face or greet him without calling him Billy? Because the reason I called him Billy was, I grew up with Billy. And we grew up in the same neighborhood. And it was like, when we saw each other, you just kind of regress back to about snot-nosed little 12-year-olds. And so every time when they talk about Mr. Rivard, oh, that's Billy.
Yeah. So, that's an interesting one. Another one that's, I guess interesting is really the only way to put it, but Coventry has been going through quite an interesting year involving Cynthia Diaz, their elected clerk, treasurer, and delinquent tax collector. The select board, hired a forensic auditor who's closing in on the end of his reports. Law enforcement's been provided the details. There's going to be some news in that area pretty quick. They're getting down to the end of that. And it looks like that money's missing and been missing for years, that anything came in cash. The auditor said that there were no deposits made at banks for 4 years. There's no documents to support it. And so I expect 2017 will mean something pretty significant in that town.
Hey, we have only about 5 more minutes left, and I know we didn't get to everything, but what do you see for the future? We're looking at the past year.
EB5 being
but,
Walmart.
Are you optimistic for the future of Orleans, Northeast Kingdom?
My glass is always half full anyway. I'm not one of those grumpy, it's terrible, whatever. I mean, you just talked about how last winter was the worst.
The year without a winter.
The worst that has been, which made finances at Jay Peak and Burt Mountain even worse because they had to do
then it trickled down to the stores.
Exactly.
And
how do you sell snowmobile gear and snowmobiles in Brighton or Derby when people can't snowmobile? You start seeing more four-wheelers out on the lots than you see snowmobiles. This year, it's starting off much better.
Yeah.
Took a little while, but boy, it's winter. And all we need is some cold weather in Boston and the coastal cities that drives people up into the mountains to go skiing, and people will snowmobile this year if we
Right.
keep getting. This is the kind of winter that I remember. You wake up in the morning and you've had 2-3 inches, and it happens every day. Guess
Yeah.
what? Pretty quick you got some snow, and it doesn't go away. So I'm optimistic on winter. And I'm optimistic. It's an irony to feel that downtown Newport having what some people feel is the cellar hole. I look at it as a financial opportunity for smart developers who can see a return. It's not easy. You have to have the right model for downtown development, and also the internet is eating the lunch of Walmart and dollar stores and everybody else, because if you can't find it in the store, you just go online, and that's not going back to what it used to be. That'll increase. So, but you can't eat out online. You can't go to a specialty shop and have the experience online. So I think that there's ways for downtowns to survive, and we'll see what happens there.
I'm like you. I'm the eternal optimist. People accuse me of walking around with rose-colored glasses on, which is true.
Likewise, but
But there really is, because I think sometimes, especially with Newport, people have got to get out of the myth of Newport. I call it the myth of Newport, because Newport wasn't as grand. It was a nice community, but it wasn't this Woodstock, Vermont. It was a hard-working, hard-struggling, but honest communities. You had the hotels. Every once in a while I'll read about the history of Newport, and I just roll my eyes.
But my dad, who lives in Stansted now, his relatives lived up in the Holland area, and he used to go to Newport on whatever night was the shopping night back in the day with his aunts, and he went down to the train station to watch whatever was going on while the ladies went downtown to the stores, because that's where the department stores were, to do their thing. And he has fond memories of Newport. It was working people going to spend their money, and I don't think that's changed.
Yeah, but the thing is the way we shop has changed. We will walk all day in a mall, but if we can't park on Main Street right next to the store...
Well, we could argue that story for a while. What I was going to say is that this area changed when Mammoth Mart opened in Derby.
And Mammoth Mart opened because of the interstate.
Right, and that happened when I was a kid.
Right.
And so you can try to put that back in the box, but it's like when the environmentalists wanted to stop Walmart, and they were talking about it, and one of them asked me, and I said, this place had a department store. They just want another one. This isn't some place that never had one. So you got to look at it differently. Yeah. It's a different community. Right. And when you think of Derby, Newport as a commercial area, it's very different, but it's really close together.
Right. In closing, I'll say this: there's so many people. I look around. No disrespect to the news, but sometimes news does focus on the negative. There's so many people here who are succeeding. Mm-hmm. I tell people, if I can succeed here, anybody can, because anybody who's watching, if I haven't already convinced them, if they didn't know me while I was growing up, if they knew me growing up, they would tell you that I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, and I've probably already proven.
I'm not going to argue with him.
But if I can succeed
here... But
he's
smart, so don't listen to him.
If I can succeed here, anybody can succeed here. And I look at so many people, but a lot of times they're not the ones jumping up in the newspapers saying, I know the answer. No, they have their nose to the grindstone. And
they're busy. Yeah.
Okay, what are your final words?
I mean, despite some weird stuff and some seriously negative stuff that happened this year, I'm pretty excited about next year. I think it's opportunity. You can hit a low and see positive. Things are just going to get better, I believe. We haven't seen the impact from Walmart. That'll play out over time, but we haven't seen all the positive stuff yet either. So I feel that that's a sort of a moving target. Some of the other stuff is just going to evolve. How Newport City manages its downtown issue, whether the government gets involved in that, I don't know. That we'll see how that goes. But I can't wait. I think New Year's are awesome. I can't wait to see what happens.
Oh, I can't. I can't wait either. I don't dread hardly anything other than saying going to the dentist or something like that.
Well,
but I really don't. I look forward to the next chapter, and I do.
And I look forward to looking back on it in another year. But let's not rush that, shall we?
Yeah, one more year will be 1 year older, and one.
I can't get much grayer.
Hey, and look at this.
Yeah, well, he can get grayer. He's got less real estate.
Thank you for coming on the show. But I know we said this years ago we got to do this more often because I think it's so fascinating. Maybe it's just because I write history for a living. I love looking back and then seeing patterns and everything, and seeing where we're headed and where we've been and so on.
We will try.
All right, thank you. And thank you for tuning in to another segment of the Northeast Kingdom Voice.